Well, good afternoon, everyone. Great to see all of you for this next Collider event. Um, just want to say hi for 1 second. And if you want to, one of the important things that we're going to do is really talk about how you can engage in chat. This is sort of a one-way mirror for me, right? I can't see all of you. So feel free to jump into the chat and introduce yourselves to everyone if you so wish to do so. Um, so we can prove that there are people out there, right? And just to say hi. So we will get started right now, and I will share my screen so we can get rolling. All right. So good afternoon, everyone. For those of you that live in our area or around the Rochester area, you'll know that today we got basically our first snow of the season, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. It pretends that winter is indeed coming, and it's great to enjoy the winter. But at the same time, personally, I'm not a big fan. So uh, it's changing of the seasons, and maybe for a lot of entrepreneurs out there, they'll find that this talk useful. So when we think about new beginnings and new exploits, there's definitely a lot to learn. And so, what we're going to do today is talk about the top 7 tech tips for new entrepreneurs. Those of you that are overly techy that are attending this webinar probably know about a lot of these tools, but we really tried to gear this towards the beginner, someone who's starting any type of business in any community, and how there's some very basic things on the tech side that could really make uh, getting that startup going a little bit easier. So, my name is Jamie Sundsbak. I am the executive director of the Collider Foundation here in Rochester, Minnesota. We activate, connect, and empower Rochester's entrepreneurs through a variety of methods: space, education, storytelling, as well as direct work with entrepreneurs called ecosystem navigation. So if you're in the Rochester area and you don't know about Collider, we would love to have a conversation with you. We also want to thank our sponsor, E1 or Entrepreneurs First. This is a great collection of really some amazing entrepreneurial organizations that support our region's entrepreneurs. And we thank them for their support for this series. And I can't say enough about them. You have to check out entrepreneursfirst.org. There's a ton of great resources, a shared calendar for the region, so that you can actually learn about not what's just going on maybe here in Rochester, but throughout the region as well. And thanks to the miracle of live streaming, a lot of those you can attend actually online versus in person. But I still always highly recommend that you attend in person. So we all know that entrepreneurship is stressful. Entrepreneurs have to wear many hats. They never have enough time. There's never enough money. And for many that we find as we're working through our work here at Collider, we find that a lot of people are intimidated by technology. Those of you that are doing tech focused startups are like, wait a minute, Jamie, what are you saying? Like, I know how to do all this, but there are a lot of other businesses that really are starting, I think, the last year to realize that how adopting certain technologies may help their business move faster. And for those of you, I consider myself very techy, but there's a lot of things that I didn't know over the last couple of years that have really helped move organizations like Collider forward, as well as many of the businesses that I've been able to assist over the last couple of years. One of the things I want to make very clear right now is some of this stuff is free, and some of this stuff costs a little bit of money. To many new entrepreneurs, obviously, money is a huge issue. And I really strongly encourage you that before you adopt any new technology, that you should really think about, that cost benefit thing. Is putting out a little bit of money going to save me a lot of time? And really weigh some of these options that I'll be presenting today before, and really make sure that it fits your individual business before just diving right in with something that may cost a little bit out of pocket for you. But I can guarantee that really with a minimal budget, you could implement almost all of these technologies. And I think it would really help create almost a quantum leap for you in your business. And I really like this really stressed out looking entrepreneur guy. By the way, we encourage you to ask questions. So feel free to either use, I believe at the bottom there's an ask a question bar, or um, you can actually just type it directly in the chat. I'll keep monitoring those, and I will be able to answer those hopefully in real time here. So technology can help sometimes. And I say that because many of us who live in sort of a more technified world um, can start using technology to the point where the technology you're using almost starts to feel like it's your boss. It's telling you what to do. And really, what you want to do is make sure that technology is your sidekick, someone who's there to support what you do, not be the overall boss of you. So just remember, as you adapt some of these technologies, that you don't feel like you're working for the technology is working for you. I think by implementing these 7 tech tips, it's going to help your business look more professional, not just an early stage business or a startup. A very basic example, which we'll talk about maybe a little bit later, is email. Many people will be, bob@gmail.com. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're trying to portray that you're more professional, that you're a business, you would want to make sure that that is Bob at XYZ Corporation, or .org or .com. That makes it look like maybe you're a little bit bigger than you already are, and that's really helpful for someone who may not be able to, sort of weighing an option of maybe they want to purchase your product or go with your service. But if you just have like a stock Gmail address, that turns a lot of people off. So being as professional as possible is really important. Again, this is going to cost a little bit of money to implement all of these. You got to spend money to make money, as they say. So I tried to keep it lower price for you all in this workshop, but definitely think about some of that before. And then for a lot of businesses, maybe restaurants or retail that really started out during the, it had been doing well for years, but obviously when the pandemic hit, you saw a lot more retail and restaurants have to create an online presence, have to sell their products online, gift cards and things like that to keep their businesses running. I think the genie's out of the bottle there, and I think if you don't have an online strategy going forward, um, you your business isn't going to do very well. So I think definitely starting to implement some of these technologies will help you create that online forward presence for your business. So the first one we're going to talk about is a website. And I know this sounds super basic to a lot of people, but as someone who recently has been giving out grants to individuals or individual businesses in the community, it astounds me how many people do not have actual physical websites for their business. And you notice that I put right under here, not Facebook. And I really want to stress that. Um, I would say of the grants we gave out this year, about half of them went to people who had Facebook only web presences. They didn't have their own standalone website. They literally just had Facebook. Now, I'm not saying that Facebook is a terrible place to be. Quite the opposite. It's very important that you have a presence on Facebook and on all social media, quite honestly. But if you're driving everything through Facebook, your one lost password or you know, one person who didn't have a great experience of your business away from Facebook blocking you and shutting down your business. And that's just something that you shouldn't risk your business on Facebook alone. So I always recommend that you have your own website. And I know for a lot of people, Websites can be super intimidating. There's a cost associated with that. There's, do you need someone to design the website or not? I'm here to tell you that if you're a very, early stage business, I think anyone can use the modern tools from a lot of great companies to design their own basic website. And I think that's enough really to keep you going. So the first and most important part of that is you get a domain. This is something that I still feel like it's it's harder than it should be for people to obtain domains. A lot of people know sites like hover.com, GoDaddy, these sorts of places where you can buy domains. Um, there's a little bit of wizardry on the back end of that if you don't know, I don't recommend, or you can definitely find someone who can help you with that. But the saving grace is a lot of these website companies. Um, oh, I'm echoing. Interesting. Well, we will figure that out in just 1 second. Let's just keep going with this then. The so domain, super important. Um, a lot of companies now, such as Squarespace and Wix and others, um, actually will allow you to use their services to obtain domains, as well as plug in, say, Google Workspaces or something like that. So, definitely, if you're new to this world, I would recommend going through something like a Squarespace or a Wix to be able to do all that in one site. With one website, I think that's really easy. For those of you more professional, I would definitely recommend just buying a domain and then hooking it through the back end. Um, no matter what website you start with, it's very important that you're mobile responsive. So that's nothing more, more transactions are happening every day, more information is being obtained through smartphones. So we want to make sure that are um, our domains are mobile responsive. And really that doesn't mean you have to create an app or anything else. It just means when the window's resized, it's going to resize appropriately for a phone. Again, this is nothing new to many of you, but there still is a few website hosts out there that don't provide a mobile responsive template. And I've seen quite a few of them recently that are very low cost that look terrible. So definitely check that out. Make sure that works. Um, many of these sites, like a Squarespace, a Wix, even I think GoDaddy has their own version now. We'll have a series of templates where it's really just find one that makes sense for your business. And I would recommend just changing some of the context, making sure you're bringing in your own pictures and things like that. I think it's super easy to do. And again, I know it can be intimidating to a lot of people who haven't done it before, but it's actually fairly easy. We've worked with a few clients here at Collider who felt that they weren't able to do it. And, we always provide a helping hand, but it's been really impressive what they've been able to do on their own. So I would definitely recommend it. Am I still echoing? Would be the question for the chat room. No. Okay. Maybe I was yelling too loud. I am in a big room here. Thank you, Jennifer. So the second point is I would highly recommend that you have some sort of cloud workspace. I call this your real desktop. So, there's many products out there. There's Google Workspaces, there's Microsoft Office. There's a lot of great Linux alternatives too for you Linux people. But I would definitely recommend that whatever workspace you use, it has a word processing component, a spreadsheet, slide presentation, obviously email, calendar, and cloud storage. I think that those are the keys to really any effective cloud workspace. And really, why you want it in the cloud is, we've all got these, right? Computers and things like that, and they have hard drives in them, and the hard drives tend to go out from time to time. Um, that's never good. It's never good for your business. If everything in your life, your business life, is stored on a hard drive. So I would definitely recommend looking into one of these cloud products. And if you're working as a team, I think it's really important that all of your team members are utilizing this solution. I know, a lot of companies, they say, well, Joe likes to do it this way, or Sally likes to do it this way. Well, you really do have to say at the end of the day, all of these documents for the safety of your company need to be centralized in one place. And I really believe that that needs to be on the cloud and away from your desktop. And we'll talk about some backup strategies here in a little bit. I prefer, and this is just me, I prefer Google Workspaces. I think it's a great product. I think there's a lot of value adds that you get with Google Workspaces. Um, we actually also utilize Google Voice as part of this package to, like, our main Collider number is a Google Voice number that can ring through to any of our phones. That's very helpful. th- for those of you that were at my last workshop on productivity, Google has its own to-do list program. So there's a lot of this suite that you could use that works really, actually, quite well. And Gmail is just rock solid. I mean, I can't say enough about Gmail and how cool it is after spending many years using Outlook and some stuff like that. But even that has gotten so much better in the last few years. So definitely think hard about cloud workspaces and how that could really help your team. Another piece of this is, we're more remote than we were before. So if you're working with someone who isn't physically next to you every day, this is the best way to do it, in my opinion, is to have that cloud sharing. I would say this week alone, I've probably co-authored, 3 documents with people, and be able to make those edits and changes, and it's all done and it's updated in the cloud. I think that just, it works so well, and it's a great alternative and really a benefit to businesses. Now you are going to have to pay some amount of money for this. I can't remember if Google Workspaces, I think, starts at like $10 for basically one seat. And then every additional member, I think, is $5. So if you have a small team, spending $20 a month to know your stuff is safe and secure, to know that your team can be distributed, it doesn't have to be in one space, and to have some of these services, I think is really an essential, not just a value add, but an essential part of your business. So we just talked about things like email, but I think team communication, to me, is another important piece. You have to keep your team in the loop. If you're a solo founder, you probably don't have to worry about this right now. But I think keeping everybody on the same page is very important. And traditionally, the way you do that is email. And we all know, many people, more than many, have inboxes just full of stuff. Um, that's a good point, Todd. Dropbox is a really great storage solution as well. They're a really cool company. Box is another one that would work really well. Team communication is so critical, and we've found over the last 5 years of running this organization that you can really cut down on email if you use and adopt some sort of team communication. So Microsoft has a product called Teams. You could use something like Discord if you're really techie, or you can use Slack, which is what we prefer here at Collider. And for any of you that says, "Oh, I don't want to use another tool and I just prefer email," um, 2 things. The first thing would be, how many times do you get an email where someone responds to everybody, in a small team by saying something like, "Okay, thanks." And that's a waste of time. It's a waste of email. Um, Everybody has to open that. Everybody has to look at that. You wonder if you look at how much time that wastes. It's kind of ridiculous. The second point is, we all text each other, or at least I hope everybody here he probably has integrated text messaging into their life. And I always think that these team communication platforms are really focused around, you know, a hybrid between email and chat. So if I can keep this window open every day, and you can see an example of the Collider sort of Slack channel on the right here, we find that it's a great way to just have conversations with people and to quickly answer them and move on with your day. Um, it's also great too because if you can have threaded conversations or specific chat areas. So for example, it's really hard to see in this image, at least on my screen. We have things directly related to our co-working spaces. So if there's building maintenance that needs to happen, someone can go right into the building maintenance channel and say, hey, the door is not locking, or I've lost my key, or something like that. And that will ping me to let me know that I need to do something. We also have, fun things. So events that are happening, we have a channel for that. We have our peer groups that we maintain through Collider. Everybody in the peer group has a channel. We also do things like if anybody's reading interesting articles that they want to share with people, there's a space for that. So you can create this sort of community among your various team members. Another strong thing is you can share documents. So if you're using something like Google Workspaces or any Microsoft products, it stays in your cloud, but at the same time, you can let someone know, hey, could you take a look at this and edit this document? All you have to do is simply copy and paste a URL into Slack, and you'll actually see the document show up, and that person can click on it, edit it almost right in line, and then it'll be saved in the cloud. So it works really well. I would say it works probably better for medium-sized teams. I think if you get very big, it could be very overwhelming, and then you're going to have to deal with filtering and stuff like that. But small to medium-sized teams, I think it works exceptionally well, and it saves my inbox so much time. Um, and it's a weird balance because you think, well, you'd have to check your email, we have to check your Slack. If you leave your Slack open, you can usually respond to things very, very quickly. Um, the caveat here is Slack will only work, or Microsoft Teams will only work if it's built into the workflow of your organization, because it's a really steep learning curve to implement some of these things. So if it's part of the expectations of your company or your company culture to utilize these tools, people will use them and it'll work out great. If you don't have that expectation, don't even try to implement these things because no one will use them. But I think if you make it an expectation, I think people will find that their productivity actually gets better with these tools. Everybody sells a product in some way, shape, or form as a business. So something that I would really recommend is a customer relationship management software, or a CRM. Your CRM is really the hub for your relationships with your customers. There are many types of CRMs out there. Some are very basic. Have more features than I would ever know what to do with. But I think it's important to set one of these CRMs up early, because ultimately the relationships that you have with your customers is what's going to actually help you drive your business forward. So there are many sources out there that you can look at. HubSpot is what we use here at Collider. You can use Salesforce. Monday.com is the one that seems to be coming up more and more for a lot of people. And there are other alternatives like Insightly. But I would recommend playing around with some sort of CRM. I find that of all the tech tips I'm going to talk about today, the CRM is the most complex. You can make it as hard to use as possible or as easy to use as possible, depending on the solution you choose. Um, for early stage businesses, I would really recommend a CRM that connects to your email. So it pulls your emails into the CRM. So in this example, we have Bob Jones, just a generic person that I made up. But this HubSpot CRM is connected to my Gmail. So when I get email in from Bob Jones, it's going to aggregate all of those relationships, those conversations I've had with Bob, all in one easy to find area. It's also going to allow me to create tasks. So maybe I want to follow up with Bob every couple of weeks. So I can simply go in and set a reminder, a task reminder that I check daily that says, oh, it's time to reach out to Bob to see if he's interested in my product or service. We do this as part of our Ecosystem Navigator program. We want to maintain our relationships with the entrepreneurs that we're serving through Collider Foundation. So I have it all timed out. I have regular check ins with people that are all driven through the CRM. And it's really important that everything sort of aggregates together because you can time an event to happen. So I follow up, say, with Bob here in 2 weeks. Well, what if Bob emails me tomorrow with a question? um, I want to make sure that when 2 weeks comes up that I can kind of follow our last conversation stream to really understand. Maybe I can add, oh, I hope this thing that I helped you with a week ago was helpful. That continues that relationship, and it helps you look really, really smart. And it really have that little personal edge that every time you reach out to someone, as long as you're storing the conversations, or even if someone happens to mention it's their birthday or it's their spouse's birthday or something like that, getting that into the CRM just wins you points with a lot of people that you're building relationships with. Again, it makes you look like you just have this amazing recall of facts, figures, numbers, dates, all of that stuff, but it's really just driven by the CRM. You can definitely, the great CRMs that are out there will help you hook in your different, I would say, streams of where your customers engage. So it might be email, it might be customers that subscribe to a newsletter that you would put out. It could be your point of sale. If you use something like Square, uh, you can gather email addresses. You can actually filter those in to your CRMs, and then everything's under one roof. So when you open up information on Bob Jones, you're seeing everything. In fact, again, it's kind of hard to see here on the side, but I can see every event that Bob Jones attended through, say, Collider's Eventbrite. I can see subscriptions to our newsletter. Are they subscribed? Are they not? Again, these things are really important. If you see someone who's always coming out to events and you charge for events, maybe you want to float, serial event attenders, maybe a discount and send them a special email. There's just a lot of things you can do when all your business intelligence is sort of aggregated in one spot. The other important thing that CRMs do is they help you automate. So the good CRMs will help you automate emails that you may send out to a lot of people. So in our case, we run a co-working space. When someone confirms with me that they would like to become a member of our co-working space, I can instantly send an automated email which has a very standard welcome to Collider. We're excited to have you. Here are the things you need to fill out, the next steps we need to do to get you your membership. And that's done with a press of a button, and a click of a mouse will send that off to them, versus you having to retype things every time and forget something, or cut and paste through a, yeah. Before I used a CRM, it was literally a text document where I wrote all these things out and I would just copy and paste into the email. All of that works really well. With higher tiers, so obviously the base level of, say, HubSpot is free. You can add modules, which start to get quite expensive, quite honestly. But there is a lot of automations you can set up. Again, this is more advanced things. But if something happens, something triggers, it'll fire off an email. Um, if they respond back, it'll pause this sort of automated email chain. There's a lot of stuff we could talk about, but I think the important point is just trying to get all your information about a customer in one place where you can reference it. I know many times I get a phone call from someone and I can, like, look around really fast and type that person's name in so that I can bring up the context of what our recent interactions have been, and that's helped me a lot and helped hopefully the customer a lot. Really have a great conversation versus me fumbling around and saying who are you again and what were we talking about. Just makes your business look like you've really got it all together. This particular one is Jennifer, is HubSpot. Monday's another great one, especially if you're into team and project management. They've sort of taken the best parts of, I think, a CRM and the best parts of a lot of project management and put it together in Monday.com. So I've used it a little bit, but I've kind of stuck with HubSpot because that's what we began with many, many years ago. And we got on a $50 a month plan. If you check now, that $50 a month plan does not exist anymore. So we're sort of grandfathered in. So I'm unwilling to really change because I think it went up to almost $300 a month. So it got really expensive really fast. So, Jennifer, could you explain what a moves management is? Because I'm unfamiliar with that term. Well, let's. Yes. So I know HubSpot does, and I know Salesforce does. Um, Insightly, I'm not sure of, and Monday.com does as well, as far as I know. No problem. So, again, if you want to go back in time, check out my productivity workshop a couple of weeks ago. I think it is so important for you to have a to do list of some type in your life. We went on and on about this probably for about half the time during the previous, so I won't belabor it, but I think it's really important that you have a to do app um, for yourself personally. It's really hard, and there are things like Kanbans and Trello and Monday.com's management software that will really help you um, do this as a team. Share responsibilities, due dates, basic project management. But I think it's important for you to have it to do for you, and that's what really powers everything I do here at Collider and in my personal life. So what I recommend is this idea of set it and forget it, so that every good to-do list should have an inbox where you can put random to-dos. You can enter them quickly. You can enter them from mobile devices. You can enter them from your computer. It all needs to go into an inbox. And then we talk about in the previous presentation, a daily review and things like that. Um, so that's just one of the things that uh, again, go back and check out that other presentation if you want to learn more about that. And then the important thing is large tasks that you have to do really need to be broken into manageable tasks. So if you have a big project due, know when you get to that. I always start from the end, so that last final deliverable of that project, and work backwards and put that all into my to-do list. Those of you that use Apple products, try to use I love Things. It's my favorite. It's what I use. That's what's pictured here on the right. Um, OmniFocus is another good one. Google Keep. So if you're in that Google Workspace world, Google Keep is really good. Reminders on iOS, and there's a number of Android alternatives as well. But I definitely recommend some sort of to-do list that exists everywhere, no matter what device you're on. I think that's really important. Another big one is a password manager. Um, a lot of people, first of all, I hope all of you, when you're setting up a business or running a business, aren't using the same password for every single thing that every single app, every single whatever online. Don't do that. I know some people are tempted to do that just because it's hard to remember all that. But having a really good password manager is so critical. Um, these password managers are set up and encrypted so that theoretically, right, I can't guarantee that they won't be hacked, but I think it's really there are some phenomenal products out there that will keep your passwords as secure as they can be. Some people put their passwords, say, on a Google document or a Microsoft Word document. um, I would recommend not doing that and trying to move to some sort of a password manager. Um, a lot of operating systems, whether they're mobile or they're computer or PC based, will have built-in password managers, and I would say at the lowest level, use those. I think that's really important. Um, I prefer to use a product like 1Password or LastPass. Again, you have to pay a little bit for that, but I think it helps you really find a place to store your passwords where they're safe and secure. And another big thing is auto suggesting a password. So in this case, whenever you go into sign up for something new, you'll sign in, and then if you have a plugin installed in your browser, it's going to pop up a little message saying with a suggested password. And usually it's like the craziest line of characters and gobbledygook that you would ever encounter. But that's super secure, and it's a super secure way. It's a unique password, and then once you choose to do that, it's saved into your password manager. So you don't have to worry, about my password's my birth date, or my password's my son and my daughter's name put together with numbers, or whatever it is. That's highly insecure. So um, password managers are a good way to store that. On a business level, password managers are a great way that if you have an employee that leaves your business, that you don't lose all of their passwords or things that may tie into your business. So I definitely think that's a good way to go. So I actually like 1Password. That's one I really enjoy. It's like $100 a year for one account. There are a business solution, and I meant to look previous to this to see what that pricing was, but I didn't get a chance to. LastPass is the other one. LastPass recently has fallen out of favor with a lot of people because they wanted to charge you per device, which was kind of a non-starter with me as a business person. KeyPass works really well too. Um, I've seen there's just a lot of them out there. Just make sure uh, that they are a legitimate company. There's a lot of companies out there, claiming to be password protection, but really what they are is they're just harvesting people's passwords. That's not so much on like a computer, but definitely there's a lot of apps out there that are free password managers, which I would avoid if they don't come from a reputable company. And you can do some research by essentially just Googling the name of the company. And a lot of times people will tell you if it's probably a great solution or not. Um, and also thing in your password manager besides passwords. So, for instance, you can put credit card numbers in, which is very helpful. When you want to purchase a product, you can just simply click a button and have it fill in the credit card information. Um, it always seems a little scary when you do that, but I keep telling people I would rather store some of this personal information in, something like a password manager than I would, um, throwing it in a or taking a picture of it and putting it somewhere, things like that. Of course, nothing is better than, if you're going to put a credit card, then actually reach into your wallet or your pocket and actually, you know, typing it in yourself. But if you want to save some time, these things are super secure. I know on the Microsoft and on the Apple side of things, now with things like Touch ID and facial recognition, I think a lot of that is very, very secure. So, um, highly recommend that. And then, things like for my personal 1Password for my family, I put in a lot of things like my social security number, things like that. And again, all of this sounds kind of crazy, but the other thing a lot of these password managers will do, which I think is very good, is if something unfortunate were to happen to you, you can designate others in your family or in your business to actually input a one-time code and authenticate, and they can actually uh, then get all of your data. So that will protect you in the event that something really, really bad happens personally or in your business, that you can have trusted contacts that and really, really trust to actually be able to access your data if something were to happen to you. All right. Well, I think this is the last of the tech tips. So tech tip number 7 is, to me, m- one of the most important things you can do, and that's have a good backup strategy for your business. So I believe that really your backup needs to happen at every level. And pre-cloud, there was something out there called the 321 strategy. And the old 321 strategy was essentially you have 3 copies of your data at all times. So you have obviously the hard drive on the computer that you have. You have an attached drive. I was going to pull mine off, but trust me, it's right below us here. So that is an attached drive of some sort that is backing up your data from your hard drive at regular intervals. And then you would have a drive where your data is stored, which is not on the same premises that your other, say, your computer and your drive is. So back in the day, that used to be you would burn a CD or a DVD, or you would get a thumb drive and back up your data and say, take it home or take it with you in a bag, or some people put it in a safe deposit box in the bank. I think it would be crazy to go like every 2 weeks to the bank to put that in, but a lot of people did that. So I like that strategy, but now with the cloud, I think we can replace that off-site with actually having it in the cloud. So I say you should have 3 copies of your data, one on your hard drive, one on an attached drive, and then one that's being backed up to the cloud. So I think that that helps you because if something goes down, you can have a copy of your data on your hard drive. You can have the copy in the cloud. Say for some reason, as we've seen with Facebook and Google recently, that there was some downtime. You can access that stuff on your desktop and be able to make the changes and reference the documents that you need and your team needs. And then Google goes back up and everything is resynced to the cloud. I think that's a great thing. Sometimes you're working on a desktop, you throw something in the trash or the recycle bin, and you delete it accidentally. Um, there's a lot of great internal built into every OS backup programs where you could actually quickly go back and almost go back in time and grab that document and rescue it. And I think that that's the importance of having that attached storage is you can do that very, very quickly. If you have the strategy built up to be able to do that in the cloud as well, that's another option. But I find that sometimes if I'm just an idiot and throw something away that I shouldn't have, that attached storage works really, really well to save my documents. Um, And I think that's it. We're at 12:43. So once again, I want to thank our sponsors, obviously Collider and Entrepreneurs First. Hopefully, I've been able to give you a few tech tips that will help you move your business forward. And for the balance of the next 10 or 15 minutes, I'd be happy to answer questions from the chat room. Otherwise, it's Friday and kind of snowing. So if people want to get an early jump on things, I understand that as well. All right. Well, thank you, Todd. Seeing not a lot of questions, I'll give you one more second if someone's typing. I know how that can go sometimes. Um, and the cool thing about Crowdcast, which is the platform we're using right now, is that even if you think of a question later, you can go back to the same link and you can type in your question and it will ping me and I'll be able to answer the question for you. So that's one of the reasons that we're starting to adopt Crowdcast here at Collider. This video will be available on demand. It takes about 5 minutes for it to render. And again, that same link that you used for this, if you want to go back and reference something, it should be there in the next 5 minutes and online for everyone. We will also download this and put it onto our Collider YouTube channel so you can see it there as well. If you're a developer, if you're not using GitHub, that's a great point, Mark. You've got to be doing that. So I think that is definitely, I would say, a key tool, definitely for developers. We were trying to keep it a little more broad for every business, but definitely GitHub is amazing. Oh, someone actually asked a question in the question area. Oh, well, thank you, Peter. Peter had a comment in the questions. It's fun how we use these tools. All right, everyone. Well, if I see no further questions, I hope in some way that some of these tips were useful. Feel free to reach out to me at any time. I don't think I had a slide with my email address, but it's just you can go to hello at collider.mn, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. So have a great weekend, everybody, and I will see you next time.